Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Downtime with Demille. I hope you guys are having a great day today whenever you're watching this video. Today's video is going to be video 3 of 4 in a series of videos I'm producing, which is a behind the scenes look at the Saharan Defender. In this video, I'm going to be giving a behind the scenes look of shots 9 through 12 of the Saharan Defender. I've already done behind the scenes looks at the first 8 shots, so this is going to cover the next 4 shots in that sequence. So if you're into animation and if you like behind the scenes, stuff like what you see on a DVD and things like that, then I think you'll be in a treat. Also, at the end of this video, or better yet, in the description, I'll leave a link to the last 2 videos that I did, which was a behind the scenes look at the previous 8 shots that were covered in the animation. So before I get into that, if this is your first time visiting the channel and if you like the content that I produce, consider hitting that like button. Likes really help the channel out in a big way. If you take a moment and hit that like, it really makes the videos more viewable and it pushes me up in the algorithm. Also, if you really like the content that I produce, consider hitting that subscribe and hit that notification bell because you'll be notified every time a new video goes live up on the channel. So just in case you have not seen the Saharan Defender, my animation project, I'm going to go ahead and play it in its entirety and then we're going to dive right into shot 9. Here we go. So as we take a look at shot 9, shot 9 is definitely one of my favorite shots in this sequence. And as you can see, I really drew my inspiration once again from Star Wars: The Clone Wars, the lightsaber battle between Darth Maul and Ahsoka. So, you can see some of the early blocking is pretty rough, pretty spotty, and that was just getting some of the initial blocking in. But then as I get ready to move into the spline really starts to smooth out pretty good. The timing was still a little bit slower than what I really wanted it to be. I didn't really feel like it was really giving a lot of energy. So that's when I really started to speed it up just a little bit more to just get a little more energy. I really wanted to make this shot my own and put my own take on what I really wanted this shot to be and really kind of separate it from how the original reference looked. And so one of the things that I did was I lowered the camera down to more of a side profile shot, which I think looked really good. And also what I did was I drew inspiration from a very popular video game that a lot of you guys know about called Mortal Kombat. This is Mortal Kombat 11. On the stage select screen, you'll notice that after you've already chosen your fighters on Mortal Kombat, they have this really cool silhouette fight of the 2 characters that you just chose as you're selecting your stage that you want to fight on. And the more that I thought about it, I was like, that is such a really awesome look. And so I decided to use a look that was very similar to that in my own shot for the final render. And I just think it turns out really good. And if you look, one of the things that I really like about this shot in the final render is that you really see the volumetric lighting and the volumetric shadows. It just looks fantastic. And that's just, that's what you do in Maya with the atmospheric fog and the volumetric shadows and the volumetric lighting. It's just a beautiful shot. And I love this shot so much that I went ahead and got an HD metal print of this to go up in my home office on my wall, just to serve as a reminder of a lot of the hard work that was done with this project, as well as just what you can do when you really put your mind into doing something that you really, really enjoy. So really happy with this shot, and really happy with the way that I was able to put my own spin and my own take to it. And now we move on to shot 10. So as we take a look at shot 10, we can really see that I continue to use the reference from Star Wars: The Clone Wars, the epic lightsaber battle between Darth Maul and Ahsoka. This was definitely one of my favorite shots to animate in the sequence. And one of the reasons why this was one of my favorites was because in this particular sequence, you really get to see Ahsoka and Darth Maul really use a lot of their really cool, elaborate tricks with their weapons. And I wanted to make sure that I captured that in the best way possible, but I also wanted the final render to be different than the original reference. I didn't want to just copy everything to a T, but I wanted to put my own take and my own interpretation of what I thought this would be. And so, as you can see in the early blockings, there was a background image plane that was used, which, once again, that doesn't really represent what Maya can do, especially when you consider the volumetric lighting and the artificial fog. I love the look of that. So once I found out about that, I was definitely not using that image plane anymore. And so you see that in the initial blocking, and then once we move to the spline blocking, the animation still pretty much looks pretty close. It's a little bit quicker right there, but then once I was able to refine that animation a little bit more in the next spline blocking is when we really get to see how I'm using a different camera angle, and I have the camera coming from a higher perspective, coming down to the ground, and also turning as Titiana does her spin move or her turn right at the end after she blocks the weapon from Gray Fox. And in the final render, you can really see just how beautiful this camera movement looks as it comes down from that higher perspective that I just mentioned down to a lower perspective, and then turning just a little bit as Gray Fox dodges away from her attack. So this was definitely one of my favorite shots to do, and I really like the way how the sparks look. The sparks were created in Adobe After Effects. I might consider playing around with sparks in maybe Houdini or even maybe Maya, just to see what kind of sparks can be created in that. But I think in this particular shot, I believe the sparks of the weapon clash, I think looks really, really good and really perfect. And so I'm really happy with the way this looks. You can see the sunset in the background as the camera comes down and looks back up as it comes from the higher perspective. And just a great shot. Lots of great energy here, and definitely one of my favorite shots in the sequence. So now we move on to shot 11. Moving on to shot 11 in this sequence. This was actually one of the shorter shots in this sequence, because at this point she's ready to put him away. And so I was going through several different iterations of what would it look like in terms of, showing how she's about to get the upper hand, and really just trying to find just the right moment that really what I felt represented that. There was some things that I just didn't really, just playing around here, as you can see how the camera is zooming in on her. These were just shots. These were just, animations that I was just playing around with. But then I decided to just go with a very simple approach. Instead of zooming the camera in, just having a static camera. So I didn't really want to do anything really crazy, really anything dramatic. I just wanted a simple setup for the move that you're about to see in shot 12. And so with that said, I will go into shot 12 right now. You can see that the original reference came from Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And I really like this shot because, this was the first time that Tatiana actually did a move that was not using her weapons. She actually used a leg sweep. And so I really like this as a potential surprise attack on Gray Fox, because he's probably not anticipating this. And so as you can see, based on the initial blocking, the shot was actually coming along pretty well. And then moving into the spline blocking, one of the things that I really wanted to do, I felt like the shot looked boring the way that it was, so I really wanted to add a different dynamic to this shot. So one of the things that I thought would be really cool and really fun to do, I just started playing around with the camera and rotating the camera, having the camera come down as she drops down to the ground, and then have the camera to follow Tatiana as she's rotating. I just thought that really gave this shot a much more dynamic look. It made it more exciting, definitely not boring, and I really liked the way that this looked. One of the other things that I really wanted to do with this shot was I wanted to go into a slow motion effect. As Gray Fox is lifted off the ground, I wanted to really capture that moment in slow motion. And so that was an effect that I added as well that was not in the original reference. So once again, this is just me taking reference and putting my own spin on it, really putting my own take by, just doing something as simple as changing the camera angle, as well as adding, a difference in speed where you're going from regular fast motion to a slow motion effect. So that is it for this week's look at behind the scenes of the Saharan Defender shots 9 through 12. Next week, we will cover the final shots in this sequence, which will be the 4th video in this series of the behind the scenes look at the Saharan Defender. So let me know what you guys think about this. We're almost done, but thank you so much for spending the time and watching this video. So on the way out, if you like this video, hit that like, share this video, and as I always say, if you can see this video, you are truly blessed. And as always, what are you gonna do in your downtime? Peace!
Subscribe!